All right. Hey, welcome everyone to the first breakout session. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us again. Please help me welcome Dr. Alex Aningalan. We are pleased that he is going to be talking this session on the basic of recertification by the WOCNCB's Professional Growth Program for the CWCNs, the COCN, the CFCNs. Okay. Dr. Alex is a board-certified wound ostomy nurse clinician and specialist. He is currently a member of the board of directors of the Wound Ostomy and Continence Nursing Certification Board. He has a varied experience in both acute and long-term care. In addition to wound healing, he is passionate about nursing education, nursing mentorship, and nursing scholarship. He loves to share the value of the wound and ostomy care specialty, especially among new to practice nurses, while encouraging and promoting it to the fellow and emerging clinicians who share his passion for wound and ostomy care. In addition, he values the importance of leadership, evidence-based practice, interprofessional collaboration among clinicians and patient populations. So let's welcome Dr. Alex.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. I believe you're all here today to learn about the new Professional Growth Portfolio Program, or our PGP program. We launched this during the WOC Next conference, the national conference for the WOCN in June. So I'm here to give more details and information on this new PGP program, which we're very excited to announce from the WOCNCB. I will try to go over the slides quicker than usual because I would like to give everyone a chance to ask questions regarding this new program. I do not have any relevant relationships to disclose. These are my learning objectives for everyone's learning objectives. We'll share with you the methods for developing and organizing your portfolios. We'll give you some resources for those impacted by COVID or any other life event for that matter. We're going to share with you how to use your current expertise to claim points for portfolios. And obviously, we'll teach you how to successfully recertify by portfolio and to avoid retaking the entry-level exam. All right. This slide just shows you a brief overview of what the difference is between certification and recertification. If you're currently a certified WOC nurse, being single, dual, tri-specialty, or foot care certified, then you would have had taken the entry-level examination, which is your initial certification exam, right? In the initial certification process, we are testing entry-level competencies. So we're assuming you're a novice WOC nurse or foot care nurse, and you are here to take the basic or the entry-level exam, right? When you're due for recertification, the process really asks, are you advancing from a novice WOC nurse to an expert WOC nurse, right? There are currently two methods for recertification, as you may know. One is to retake the entry-level exam, or the other one is through the Professional Growth Program or the PGP portfolio, right? And the PGP really would show your progress from being a novice to an expert. Here are the basic eligibility requirements, as you may all know. You should hold the current RN licensure. For PGP renewals, you should have current WOCNCB certification for all specialties sought, right? So if you want to renew your tri-specialty, we need to make sure that all three of your specialties are current and none has lapsed, right? And of course, we would always advise you to download the handbook. So the handbook is live on the website. It's a 2024 handbook, right? We no longer print copies. It's easily downloadable. If you want it printed, you can easily print it. And you may notice that it's a lot thinner than previous editions for reasons we'll be discussing in a few. What are the 3 keys to success with PGP? We always remind anyone who wants to recertify by a PGP to use all of the 5 years that you've been working. So you always should look back to the last date that you renewed, right? From that time to your certification expiration, we want you to use all those activities. It's not just the previous year. It's not just the immediate 3 months, which is a requirement. It's actually the whole 5 years from the time you last renewed your certification. And of course, it would be best to read and use the handbook. I personally like using the new handbook in PDF form because the tabs are actually able to navigate you to the page where you want to be, right? So if you find a new handbook, on the right-hand side are tabs. If you click through them, it's going to bring you directly to the page, so you don't have to scroll up and down the new manual. All right, so this slide now tells you of deadlines, right? The certification expiration date, when we refer to that, is the date indicated on your WOCNCB certificate, right? If you are still having 3 separate certificates or 2, right? So for that specific specialty, the expiration would be whatever is on the credentials. If you have since merged it to either a dual or a tri-specialty certified, then the date on that tri-specialty or dual certification would be your certification expiration date. Another question that gets asked of us is, for example, initially you're just a CWCN, you have since obtained the O and the C, and you want that to be merged as a CWOCN, you can easily contact the office and they're able to make the adjustments for you for your next renewal to have one single certificate, which is the CWOCN, instead of having 3 separate certificates. Now, for the PGP, the submission date for portfolios, a common notion is that you have to wait 3 months before your current expiration date. You can actually start applying for PGP 1 year from the date of the expiration of your current credential. So say for example, your current credential lapses November 30 of 2023, and that's the date on your current certificate. You can actually start filing for your PGP on November 30 of 2022. The new expiration will count from 2023, and you won't waste 1 whole year. So essentially, you'll still get the full 5 years on renewal, even if you start a year early. So you start early, you finish early, but you still get the 5-year expiration date, right? So we don't want colleagues to be cramming to renew, right? So these are the portfolio requirements, and you would notice all of these things remain unchanged from the current outgoing PGP guide, right? Each specialty requires a portfolio. So if you're certified in wound, ostomy, continence, and foot care, then you'll have 4 portfolios. If you're tri-specialty certified, it's 3 separate portfolios into 1 overall PGP application. Each portfolio for each specialty should have 80 PGP points. It remains the same. It's always been 80. 40 of the 80 PGP points must directly relate to your specialty. 40 of the 80. I want to emphasize that a big change on the new manual is that the specialty points are now clearly indicated on the manual. So you don't have to determine and to ask, is this specialty or is this professional practice? So it's clearly indicated there. 10 of the PGP points must come from continuing education. That directly relates to your specialty, right? We'll go into that in detail later. But just remember, 10 CE points directly relating to the specialty. Portfolios are completed online. Right now, we are on a brief pause from the old to the new portal. The new portal will go live January 2nd of 2024. But if you have had started entering data from last year, those would be carried over into the new portal, provided that they still match current point system from the old ones. And I said earlier, it should be submitted 3 months, but we encourage you not to wait for 3 months. You have a whole year to submit it before your credentials expire, right? There are several resources. The most important one is the PGP handbook. I actually have it printed here. It's much thinner now, right? It's a PDF file. You can have it. Just to avoid confusion, as we speak right now, the 2022 PGP handbook is still live. So when you go to the website, make sure you're downloading the 2024 PGP. By January 1st, the 2022 will be deleted from the website, and that would be history, right? We update that every year, usually on even years, and that's why 2024 is the update year. The other valuable resources, we have on-demand videos and tutorials, we have handbooks, checklists. We do have an Ask the Board section on the website, but I find it the most easiest to just send an email to info@WOCNCB.org. Kathy Meyer is our certification manager. She usually has a fast response turnaround, so email I think would be the best. You can also call though if you prefer. The number is listed on the last slide. We also have PGP office hours. So PGP office hours is sent to your email a couple weeks before the actual date. It's a Zoom call. You don't have to register. You just have to hop in, hop out. If you log into that PGP office hours and you're done with your questions, you can easily leave the Zoom meeting. The next PGP office hours would be January 24 of next year. All right. I just want to share our information on credential extension. The board actually offers credential extension for certain life events or if you're impacted by COVID, right? We understand that in today's world, there's a lot of things happening. And if you have some life events that may prohibit you from renewing, you may request for a credential extension. Now, credential extension has been more widely used because the board allowed certifications expiring between August and March of 2024 to actually request for an automatic credential expiration. And I'm going to explain why in a few. Again, you can email them, info@WOCNCB.org, and then you'll receive a response on how to go about this. We just want to remind everyone that for one certification period, that's a period of 5 years, you're allowed a credential extension policy for one time. So you may use it for one time, and you may request documentation to prove that you are eligible for a credential extension. And here we go, the revised professional growth portfolio program. I myself am excited to share this. We've been working behind the scenes for this for years. And when we launched it in the WOC Next conference, it was widely accepted positively. So we've been excited to share it with you. Just a little backstory on how this all started. When we had our board meeting in spring of 2022, right, the PGP committee reported that the current number of certificates recertifying through the PGP is at 33%. So a greater majority actually is opting to retake that exam. I personally don't like taking exams. If it was me, I would not want to retake a wound, ostomy, and continence certification exam again, right? I'd rather do a portfolio. But you know what's even more surprising? Out of that 33%, half of it were being returned for revisions, right? And during that time, during our board meeting, we of the board actually asked a simple question to the PGP committee. Why is this so hard? Why is this so complicated? Right? And that kind of started the ball rolling, right? The board voted to revise, simplify, and streamline the PGP process. And so over the next few months, from June to November of 2022, a task force was formed. It consisted of current and past PGP chairs, PGP members, and 2 members at large, right? We chose a person that certified via PGP, and we chose a neutral member that chose not to recertify via PGP, meaning to say they renewed by examination. So we wanted to be fair. In the fall of 2022 board meeting, the changes were presented again to the board, but then the board said, we're not quite there yet. We need it to be a little more simpler. We need it to be a little more streamlined. So during our fall 2022 meeting, the board, together with the board liaison for the PGP, we worked the whole process extensively. And by January to April of 2023, the final version was approved, and it was presented during the WOC Next conference earlier this year. This slide shows you the comparison. The first slide shows you the comparison between the old PGP and the new PGP. I won't waste everyone's time to read. It's essentially the same, right? And that's what we wanted to achieve. We wanted the framework, the basics, and the basic principles and tenets of the old and the new PGP to be retained. The WOCNCB has the slogan, the gold standard for certification. We wanted to still maintain that rigor, right? But rigor doesn't mean difficulty. Rigor doesn't mean confusion, right? So it still is the same 80 PGP points, 40 of the 80 must directly relate to the specialty, and 10 PGP points must come from continuing education. This is where the differences lie. The original PGP had 9 categories, right? If you read a current PGP manual, there's 9 categories there. The current PGP has 3, right? We retained the continuing education section as a requirement. In nursing certification, CE has always been a standard, and I'm talking about outside our specialty, the WOC and foot care, right? So we're keeping it. The new one that was added is practice hours. So this is already a current standard in other certification boards, practice hours. If you're actively working in the field of wound, ostomy, continence, and foot care, should get credit for your practice hours. And that's what we added. And then all the other 8 categories we combined to form one single category: teaching, research, writing, volunteer activities, and programs and projects. Category 3 is optional, but it helps you reach the 80-point requirement per portfolio, right? And we'll discuss that as we go to the next slides. A few more differences. In the old PGP, professional practice remains to be a source of confusion. For example, you attended a conference. Where should I put this under activities? Is this a specialty or is this professional practice? Right? In the new manual, you would find that each activity is clearly delineated as specialty or professional practice, right? It's clearly identified there. We'll also discuss professional practice in a few as when we get there. The old PGP had single-digit increments, which is very confusing. They also have half points, 0.5 to 70, right? The new PGP now only has increments of 5, and it's now down from 70 to 40, right? So it's 1 to 40 increments of 5, with the exception of CE, which I think everyone would like anyway for the CE. We eliminated the use of pre-approvals. So the new PGP manual specifically states the organizations where you can claim CE points. So that means and we've expanded that as well. So as long as the provider of your educational program is within that list, that's a CE, and CE credits convert 1:1. So if you have 27.5 CEs, you will get 27.5 points, right? And then we also limited the use of minimums, and we eliminated maximums. One common activity that we eliminated the use of maximums for is precepting WOC students. A lot of us precept WOC students, and every student is different. So we understand that, so now you can claim for as many WOC preceptees that you precepted. Maximums are eliminated. All right, we're going to go to category. For the 2024, right? So preceptor, although the points are now lesser, it's 5 points per preceptorships. As long as you precept for a minimum of 10 hours, then that's equivalent to 5 points. if you precept 20 students in a span of 5 years, then that's 5 times 20. So there's no more maximums. In the old one, there were maximums for preceptorship. And I can't remember clearly from the top of my head what the maximum was, but there were. Now, you can claim as many points as you want for precepting, as long as it's a minimum of 10 hours. Okay. CE credits. It remains to be required, and we're not the only certification board that requires it, right? What's important to know is that for CE, it is required to have 10 CE credits that directly relate to the specialty, right? So although you're allowed professional practice, 10 of those have to directly relate to specialty. So if you're doing your wound portfolio, 10 CEs must directly relate to wound, right? And as you notice, even in every WOCN conference, national and regional, it would be easy because they indicate what specialty that session is about. Like this session is professional practice. So you can add this as your professional practice points, right? And then maximum of 40 contacts. So minimum of 10 specialty, maximum of 40. Professional practice is not required. So when this was being discussed, the board actually asked, should we retain professional practice? So to align with accreditation and to align with the exam, which requires professional practice, the board decided to retain professional practice. With the pre-approval being eliminated, so you don't need to write for pre-approval, as long as the educational program is provided by the societies listed here, right? WHS, WCET, NPIAP, WOCN, SUNA, AANP, ANCC, and AAWC. As long as it's provided by these organizations, you can claim for that as either specialty or professional practice points, right? For professional practice specifically, this would come into play. So if you don't want the professional practice to be questioned, it has to be from within these organizations, right? And these are the examples. The new category is practice hours, right? This was not existed before, but we recognized as long as you're working as a WOC or foot care nurse, you need credit for your practice hours. I want to emphasize though, practice hours is not limited to direct patient or clinical care. Practice hours include clinical hours in either acute long-term care, home care, or outpatient. But I want to emphasize, academics, administrative role, and industry work is considered practice hours, as long as it directly relates to wound, ostomy, and continence or foot care. So if you're a clinical rep for an industry that caters wound care products and you're providing wound care education, that is equivalent to your practice hours, right? 2,000 practice hours per 5 years is equal to 40 points, right? Now, how did we go about by 2,000? We went back to current industry surveys. The average 1.0 FTE WOC or foot care nurse that works full-time, FTE, works in approximately 2,000 hours a year. Now remember, this is 5 years. So you only need 2,000 per specialty within the last 5 years to get that maximum 40 points, right? 1,000 is 20, 500 is 10, 250 is 5 points. In the new portal, which would go live on January 2nd, you will be able to complete a signed attestation form attesting to the number of hours. That's suffice enough. There's a form there. However, if you do get audited, the board may ask for certification from your immediate supervisor or manager regarding the hours, if you do get audited. The third category is where a majority of the old point systems were combined into one. I just want to emphasize though, if you have 40 CE credits and you have 40 practice hours, essentially you would complete the 80-point requirement. So we expect very few to actually use category 3, right, which is teaching, research writing, volunteer activities, and programs or projects. This is where a lot of the legwork was done, right? We do understand that some points used to have higher points, and now has lower points. There were also categories that were eliminated, such as P&I studies, prevalence and incidence studies, and policy review. Why did we remove that? Although it's popular, the practice hours is there. And if you're actively working as a WOC or a foot care nurse, you are expected, for the most part, to do prevalence and incidence and to do policy reviews, right? So those are eliminated, but you have a higher chance of attaining the 40 points with practice hours. And then we eliminated the use of maximums on certain categories. These are some of the examples for category 3. The 40-point category is for a textbook author or textbook editor. This is not all-inclusive. These are just some to give you an idea. For the 20-point category, a completed QI project that relates to your specialty. To your specialty that you're renewing. A journal article author for a peer-reviewed journal, right? Precepting and IRB grant writing. The 10-point category, teaching, research, journal review, professional organizations, any involvement in professional and facility organizations, national or regional for the professional, right? Volunteer work and mission work. And then 5 points are your facility-based programs. Say you conducted a nursing orientation for new staff nurses talking about wound, ostomy, and continence or foot care, right? So that's 5 points. Development of an educational tool, both for patients or staff, right? So these are just some of it. You would notice that it's now 5, 10, 20, or 40. So it's not confusing, like it's not 50. It's not like different increments. Now it's just one solid increment. How are we transitioning to the new system? The new PGP system will go into effect midnight of the new year, January 1, 2024, right? The current system would cease to exist as of December 31, 2023. Now, remember, we have a 3-month deadline. So for those credentials expiring on or before March 31, 2024, if you have not done so and you want to recertify using the current process, we ask you to please email the board, info@WOCNCB.org. Just put on the subject line credential extension and then put your personal details on the body of the email. You will get a credential extension if your credential is expiring on or before March 31, 2024, unless you choose to recertify using the current system, which we actually discourage because the newer system is easier to navigate. August 31 was the last day to start a new application in the new PGP. So right now, no one can actually initiate that. The current portal is actively transitioning to the new portal. Active portfolios at that time can be downloaded, but it's actually going to migrate into the new portal. Once it goes live, January 2 is when the new portal goes live. Right. We have these are the few exceptions, but we're now really closing in on the end of the year. So pretty much everyone that wanted to recertify have filed for this. So September 1 to December 31, if your credentials are lapsing, you can file for a credential extension in writing or in email. We just ask that you do this 2 weeks before your credentials expire. And like I said earlier, if your credentials are expiring before March 31, 2024, we ask that you request for a credential extension so that you can work on the new PGP portal. I purposely made the slides a little shorter so we have some time for questions. And this is the email, the phone, or where's the mic?
I noticed that the academic for I'm in MP school right now. So in the original, I can use the college credit to transfer into the PGP. But now I don't see it in the revised one. Is it still there or it's been removed?
It's still there.
So it will be in the category 3 that you mentioned?
Yes, it's still there. Category 3, 10 points for academic coursework.
10, that's but you said there's no maximum for category 3. So like how many, maybe I can see that.
Yeah, there's no maximum, so you can use as many credits, but just be mindful of the minimum, which is 10 CE specialty credits. So yes, you can put as many credits as you want, but just make sure you have 10 specialty CE credits and practice hours.
Got it. Yeah. So, but I can, so one college credit transfers 1 point.
It is one course per course.
Oh, it's per
Yeah,
course.
so
Okay.
if you're taking advanced health assessment, that's one course. That's 10 points.
Oh, that's 10 points. Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I can hear it.
For the recording, we still need you to talk into the microphones.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. So currently, I'm a wound utilization review nurse for an insurance company. And we go in when home health requests visits. When the nurses are going to the home to review patients that have wounds, they ask us for, the authorization for the visits. We go in, look at the wounds. We make we look at everything, the exudate, what's a wound bed. We make recommendations to them to help get that wound to go in the healing direction. If they don't listen to us, then we call the clinical manager at the home health agency on the next review. The third review, we are calling that physician ourselves. Does that still count as the points to get, like if you're working in the practice?
Yes.
Okay.
That's under case management. You're still actively dealing with wound care patients. So yes, it does count for wound care practice hours. Mm-hmm.
I hope I don't forget my question. Okay. So I'm going to do renewal for March. So you're saying if I want to do the new way, I have to write an email to get an extension, correct?
Correct.
In the interim, should I continue to put in the CEs that I've accumulated for the last 5 years? Or
So to answer your first question, yeah, you still need to request. Second one, I think the current portal is closed unless you've started it before. If you're currently working on it, you can still put it in. But if you're planning to renew with the new one, I would suggest just holding it off. Maybe create your own private list and then upload it to the new portal in case it doesn't migrate automatically.
Ooh, okay. And so the other question is when you're putting the CEs in, so say if you go to national, do you just put it in as like whatever you get 20 credits, let's say, and then in the description area you just list all the ones, or you're putting in each CE as a separate entry?
You'll be putting in each CE. For example, if you attended WOC next, right? And you're claiming for wound specialty, right? So you need to identify the session title and then how many credits were awarded. And that would count as specialty.
And that's under one entry. So maybe I went to 3, which might equal 3 credits. So I enter it as 3 credits, and then in the objectives, just list the 3 names of the 3 different presentations I went to?
Yes.
Okay.
And for the most part, especially I believe for the WOC next, there's several credits per session. So make sure you get the full credit per session.
Okay.
If it's 1.5, you get 1.5 points.
Okay, and you're saying don't keep adding things now in case it doesn't migrate?
They're saying it would migrate, but like just a word of caution, this is a new system just to make sure you don't want to lose your data.
No.
So I would just wait for January 2 when the new portal opened.
So you just gave me my holidays back.
And you also get extension. You don't need to renew by March. I could.
It's on. So basically I'm due to renew, I think in March. I've been putting those in for 5 years. The CEUs, what do I do with, I have to re-enter all those? It's continence and ostomy.
Have you entered it in the old system? Have you entered it in the old system? If you entered it in the old system, it would carry over.
It absolutely will migrate. Okay, that's one thing. The next question I have here is I've been an active WOCN forever. Credits for ostomy and continence. Now, since those are the 2 I'm renewing in, do I consider 40 hours like I work every day forever? How do I separate those two out? I understand 2,000 hours a year. Do I split that between the two when I do both?
You can split up the practice hours. And also remember, it's 5 years.
Yes.
So you can split your practice hours for ostomy and continence as needed.
And I educate LPNs, and that counts also, I believe you said. I teach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So for practice hours, if you have multiple jobs, and that's a good question actually, say if you have clinical hours, say, I'm just throwing out numbers, 1,000, right? And then you say have 500 hours for teaching. So you have 1,000 and you have 500. And whatever the equivalence would be your total practice hour point.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to point that out too, and I know we have questions there. If you have multiple jobs, claim practice hours for those as long as they relate to wound, ostomy, or continence. Or foot care.
I'm not sure. Okay, this is working.
can
Could you
hear you.
clarify precepting one more time? On this and on your slide, it said it's 20 points. On here, it says 5 points for every 10 hours, but it's listed under the 5-point section. I'm confused.
Let me make sure because, the manual is the manual. I do recognize that there's 5 points for precepting, right? On page 14, precepting WOCN students or other medical professionals, that's minimum of 10 hours to earn 5 points.
Without a max?
And then, so yes, precepting would count as 5 points per student, 10 hours minimum, but you can claim as much as you want. The 20 points is in the handout. No, it's in the slide.
Yeah. I just want to, I have a lot of hours. So for every 10 hours, I can take 5 points and it without a maximum.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not familiar with IRB grant. Could you please explain?
So IRB is an institutional review board. So if you're conducting research, right, and it was approved by a university IRB, so it's an institutional review board. So it's for research projects. There are certain universities that grant research. So if you're working for those, then you can claim the points for that, which is 20 points. Did I answer your question? I think so. Thank you. You're welcome.
Me again over here. I guess I'm used to this being complicated. The precepting, is there a special form we have to fill out with signatures or how exact, or the teaching, I used to have to turn in a roster.
For the new portal, there would be attestation.
Okay.
Right? And you're able to outline all. However, if you get audited,
Right.
then you would need to have proof of
Got it.
precepting.
Okay.
Yeah.
To that point, does precepting the WTA students, does that count as if you were precepting a WCN?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
I have a question. I'm precepting somebody who wants to become a WOCN. She's shadowing me. It's not for her clinical. It's just, I'm precepting her in the facility where I work. Will that count? Because I'm teaching her wound care and teaching her ostomy care. And she's going to become a WOCN.
But it's not yet her clinical hours. This is
It's not,
yet her official.
it's not for her clinical, but she's doing wound care with me. I'm teaching her everything I know. And she already got a job to be a wound care nurse. She just is not certified yet.
So when we say precepting, it has to be they have to be in an active WOCNCB school. And they're doing their clinical hours for you. I mean, you're precepting them to fulfill their clinical hours. That's what we mean by precepting.
I see.
So because if you do get audited, they may ask you for what's the WOCNCB school? And then how many hours did you actually precept? So precepting in this sense means that.
Okay. So it's not then.
Yeah.
That's fine. Another question. I have two certifications. One is expiring in March 31st of next year, and one is expiring in 2 years. Can I combine them in my application for recertification?
You can have you will have to email the board.
Right.
However, given that it's far off 2 years, you may have to sacrifice one from the other. But that's an individual case to case. So I would suggest emailing the board, and they can give you instructions on the other one, because the other one's 2 years. There's a 2 year gap. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would just have to recertify the other one another
or
time.
you can do it. You may just lose hours for the other one.
I have.
You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna recertify earlier. So, for example, wound and ostomy. Say your ostomy is 2 years from now.
Yes.
If you merge that into one single expiration, then you may lose the 2 years that you still have for ostomy. But then the next time you renew, it would be a CWON,
Gotcha.
not a separate one.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I have two questions. Number one, if I had put precepting for nursing students in the past and then regular hospital employees, is that not appropriate? I'm not precepting WOCN students?
Precepting nursing students, and I think that's the clarification there. Nursing students is 5, precepting WOCN students it might be the 20 points. Are you precepting nursing students as part of your job, or are you precepting as an additional expectation for your
No, just part of my job.
Usually, if it's part of the job, it's usually would fall under practice hours, so
Okay.
you may not get the full credit.
Sounds fine. And the other question is, I always find old CEUs I forgot to put in, and in the previous method, you couldn't insert anything in the beginning. Does it have to be in order? Is that better for you? Because you could never add something before. You could only add it after, and then it wouldn't be in order by year when you attended the conferences, etc. Must it be in order?
No, it doesn't have to be in order as long as it's within the last 5 years.
Okay, great.
But it doesn't have to be in order.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
My first question is, if you have things sitting in unassigned now going into the new, will that transfer over, or do we have to keep track of that and put it in afterwards?
The unassigned would remain, unfortunately, because you would have to assign them.
Okay.
Right.
So if it's not in wound ostomy or continence and it's sitting in unassigned, you better hold on to it somewhere else.
Yes, and just make sure it transfers.
I did that already.
Okay.
My second question, and this has always confused me, especially with the virtual presentations. So say you signed up for virtual national, but you didn't complete them on the days that they occurred. You maybe completed it yesterday. What date do you put in the completed? Do you put it in the date that it was presented at national, or do you put the date in that you completed it after the fact?
I would use the date on your certificate. You know how they issue a completion certificate, right?
Yeah.
So say, for example, the WOC next, you have until December 31. So I would use that date when you completed the evaluation and you're actually issued the certificate for virtual and on demand.
Okay. So basically the date that it was presented is what you want in that.
No, the date you completed it.
Pardon?
The date you completed it.
Oh, the date I completed.
Yeah, the date you completed it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just want a clarification. You mentioned that if we do orientations for new nurses, but even though it's part of our job, but you mentioned it's in category 3, so we can claim both.
Presentation that would be under presentation of an educational program. So that's 5 points.
Okay. So
Yeah, because orienting new employees is presentation of an educational program.
Oh, so it's separate from our practice hours.
As long as you're actually presenting the program.
Yes.
In a formal, in an orientation setting.
Oh, so that including skin days, ostomy days for the facility.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Good. That mean.
Any more questions? All right. We ask that you share this too with your colleagues because PGP is the better way to recertify. It's also the easier way. And yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
And it's the, anyway, it really proves your progression in the career. So yeah.
No, I know that this is being recorded, but is your PowerPoint available as a downloaded?
I think it should be on the portal, the attendee hub. Yeah, I think.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Happy to help. On your way out, and there's pens there, so just grab some. Thank you.